Sometimes we take for granted that we here in Wisconsin have access to one of the world's largest sources of fresh water, and that's of course Lake Michigan.
That's right, but the Great Lakes are under a threat right now from invasive plant species. Look at this, I got one of them.
Yeah.
Something coming. I think it's a spider.
I think that was a spider. Oh my gosh. Right in front of your nose.
Right to my face. I think it's probably on me somewhere now. All right, but to help, we've got gardeners here. They're going to help us protect our landscapes and our waterways. We've got the plant doctor, Melinda Myers, along with Chris Acey with the Fox-Wolf Watershed Alliance. Good to see you guys.
Great to be here, and there might be some other wildlife. Having plants and water plants in your landscape can be a wonderful thing. It helps us understand, add beauty. Those dragonflies like wet places, so it's a great way to help support them. But we need to be careful what we do with our water plants afterwards. These are all approved by DNR. My friends at Aquatic lent these to me so we could have some beautiful things to talk about before Chris and I talk about the bad guys out there.
Okay.
But you know, we depend on our waterways, not only Lake Michigan, but the inland lakes and the rivers and streams for recreation, economy. Just take a walk along the beach and it's wonderful. You feel so much more relaxed when you hear those waves. So think about how important the water is and what we need to do to protect that.
Yeah. Are there things we all can be doing to help prevent problems?
Absolutely. So if we're talking about water gardens, we always want to make sure we're using plants that aren't invasive. So there's a lot of good native plants or plants from North America, from this area, that we should be using instead of invasive plants, such as water hyacinth.
Oh, that's a
good or
cool
that's
one.
invasive?
So this is an invasive one. It looks really cool, but it is bad. It's a bad plant.
Okay, this is a bad
it
plant.
pretty.
Oh, it is cool.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't like it anymore.
Okay. What are these? Are these like pods almost?
They're almost pods, yeah. It's a really cool structure that they use to stay afloat. So this is a free-floating plant. You can see the roots are hanging down. So this floats at the top of the water.
Gotcha.
And it just doubles in as little as 8 days. So we have a lot of plants that quickly take over, causes problems with water where you get stagnant water, which of course can lead to more mosquitoes, but at the same time can really use a lot of the oxygen in the water that our native plants and wildlife need as well.
And there's a picture we have. Chris and his team discovered somebody must have let these loose, and maybe talk about your discovery.
Absolutely, yeah. So that picture that you're seeing right now is from the Fox River and the East River up in Green Bay. Somebody dumped some of these plants, these are actually from that finding, into the local waterways.
Because they thought they were pretty, or just a different reason?
Hard to say for sure. Some people like to still grow them even though they're illegal to have in Wisconsin, but some people still like to have them so they can sell them online. There's still a lot of states that allow
Do
them.
people smoke them?
No, they actually they look really nice in water gardens, and they have a really nice flower as well, so people just like that look of them.
Okay, got it.
Why would they want to?
Why are they illegal?
But I think Chris brings up a good point. I think a lot of people do it not knowing the problem, because you can buy them online. So buy locally from quality nurseries that the DNR checks, that are registered, that are only growing plants that are allowed to be sold here, and then dispose of them properly so we don't have problems like this.
And that's the biggest thing. We really want to make sure people aren't putting anything into the waterways, because even if you're not sure if it's invasive or native, you could still be introducing a new problem. So if you have any plants that you want to get rid of, get a plastic bag and just say invasive plants approved for disposal or landfill by Wisconsin DNR. You take the plants just like this, you put them right in the bag, and then you zip it up and throw it away. That makes sure they're not reproducing out in the wild and they're not going to get out into our waterways.
Like I feel like something about me feels bad that I'm killing a plant. I don't know, but like I get it. It's important.
Right, because one of the things that happens when these move into the waterways, Chris mentioned, it impacts the flow of water and the oxygen. It really changes the balance in nature and can harm some of the good plants, the good plants and the fish and the wildlife around it. So getting rid of this, as hard as it is, and I know as a gardener it hurts, but you're doing a lot of good for other plants that we really depend upon.
Let's look at some other examples of invasive plants that we kind of want to be keeping our eye on and getting rid of. This one looks beautiful.
It also cannot be smoked.
Absolutely,
We're going to update all the brochures.
Yes, just like with that message. Yeah, this is called yellow iris. So it's starting to pop up, especially around here in the Milwaukee area. There's these plants that bloom this really beautiful yellow flower. And so I'm hoping you're starting to see that connection between these these plants that are producing really nice flowers are being brought in.
Right?
Right, and it tolerates wet soil, so you often see it along the waterway.
So that one's bad. This one is water lettuce?
This is water lettuce. So it looks pretty similar to water hyacinth.
Okay.
And the challenges and the negative effects of this plant are very similar, where it's a free-floating plant. It causes all sorts of issues in the waterways as well.
What
And
about this one?
Purple loosestrife, a garden plant. Many gardeners grew. We also saw a sterile variety introduced that wasn't sterile, so it reproduces rapidly. It spreads from your garden to nearby wetlands and waterways. And I'll tell you, when you drive along the freeway, I told Chris, well, I've seen it, but I'm not going to stop on the road and run off the freeway to pick it. But you see these beautiful purple flowers, and you think, how could this be bad? And the DNR has been working on getting rid of them, too. I don't know if you want to chat about that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So each of those plants can produce over 1 million seeds every single year. So we're starting to see a lot of this spread with these invasive species. However, though, DNR has this really cool program that they're using a biocontrol, meaning they're using a bug to control purple loosestrife. It feeds specifically on purple loosestrife.
Those
Good
are the
for those
ways that we
bugs.
got to keep our environment thriving. So here's a website you can go to. It's DNR.WI.gov, and you can search invasive species so you know more on how to keep our waterways
We got to
safe.
spot them, get them out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like it.
And if you find them, even if you didn't dump them in the waterway, let DNR know so they can help
Come get
control it before it's a huge problem.
Great
Absolutely.
points, you guys. Great to see you.
Yeah.